crucial win for the Toon in the Champions League after the disappointment against West Ham on the weekend. Today's video, we will be breaking down the game, looking at the positives, of course, looking at the negatives as well. I mean, that Dan Burn goal, absolutely incredible. But if you do enjoy this video, please do hit the like, and if you are new, please do hit the subscribe. It is always appreciated and never forced upon you. But yeah, you know, I think Newcastle United definitely needed that victory. I feel as though there was heavy disappointment following on from the defeat to West Ham. I was watching, I didn't expect that whatsoever. I wanted to give the Newcastle fans and my YouTube subscribers the time to just digest that game, and then we come on here after the game against Athletic Club and sort of talk then, because I feel as though it's been a common theme this season, Newcastle United being so good in the Champions League and being quite poor in the Premier League, especially away from home. But you can see the potential of this Newcastle United team whenever they play in the Champions League, and I feel as though that is a huge sort of rock to build on, or brick to build on, because you can see the talent, the expression which comes in the Champions League, the way this team rises to the biggest of occasions. And I feel as though it is in those games where there's the heavy expectation on them to win, where we don't really see them performing to levels that they should be. And maybe that's a thing that comes from the mentality within the camp. But you can see Newcastle United normally get stronger as the season goes on. I've had a look at what they've sort of done over the past couple of seasons in terms of they always seem to start quite slowly, but they always manage to pick up towards the end of the season. And you need that, because ultimately most of the points and the important points are won from January onwards, and Newcastle seem to always turn up from that day onwards, which is always a big positive. But I think where we need to start is, of course, the goal of Dan Burn. I mean, that was absolutely incredible, wasn't it? I mean, the way that he headed that ball, I haven't seen a header like that ever. I haven't. How has he managed to have that header curl into the far post? I've seen about 30 different angles. It just gets better every single time. And you know what's funny, and what I've noticed is every single time Newcastle fans don't like a certain player's performance in the Premier League, they'll always just turn up in the Champions League. It's been with Anthony Gordon. It's been with Anthony Elanga. Now it's Dan Burn. After the game against West Ham, I saw so many Newcastle United fans saying Dan Burn needs to be dropped. They were even looking for Harrison Ashby, who's been injured now, who they signed from West Ham, who can play on both fullback positions, as an option to replace Dan Burn, because he's just not been up to scratch at fullback. But then he just pulls out stuff like that, an incredible header. I feel as though he was quite steady defensively in his duels. It's difficult when you're playing up against Champions League level. But I feel as though that Dan Burn, you know, as a Champions League player he is himself, turned up. He turned up. You know, this is a guy who loves to show people what he's all about, and I feel as though today, another thing to put himself in the record books, history books, for a goal like that, because I think we'll be talking about that for quite a while. You know, I'm sure you guys all saw the Van de Ven goal. I'm not saying it's better than that goal, but I'm saying it's a wonderful header. It genuinely is. And you need that moment of quality to open up a game. I feel as though, if we've got to be really honest, Newcastle United didn't start well whatsoever. I feel like Athletic Bilbao were getting the press correct. They were trapping Newcastle United in. Newcastle were giving the ball away cheaply, but you need players to bail you out. And that's the thing in modern day football. Things cannot be going your way, but if you've got players who are able to bring out individual brilliance, then you're set. You know, individual brilliance is so key. It genuinely is. You know, that's how you're going to show everybody what you're all about. Having these sort of individual sort of quality within a game, and Dan Burn showed it, you know, in terms of a tricky period for Newcastle in the game. And I think that goal sort of knocked Atletico Bilbao a bit for six. Obviously, towards half-time, they had a little bit of momentum, but you always felt that half-time would suit Newcastle. They'd be able to kick on and put the game to bed. And to be honest, that's what exactly happened. You know, going into the second half, you're looking at players absolutely stepping up their game. And that gives me an opportunity to talk about Malik Thiaw again. I mean, this guy is just absolutely disgusting. And I mean that in a positive way. I know disgusting isn't normally used in terms of a complimentary thing, but I have no other way to describe how good this guy is. You know, the Premier League, the Champions League level nights, he just rises to the occasion. And it's not even just on the ball, where we can see his talent to be able to switch the ball. You know, in the second half, he was the first one to express that switch the diagonal towards the left-hand side, and it was really beautiful to see that, because on the ball, he's going to be able to unlock teams. And even in his duels, I think you guys can all remember when Botman just got pushed out the way by the Atletico Bilbao player. Guess who came across and dealt with the danger? Malik Thiaw. And this is what he's been doing for Newcastle United. He's been able to come over to where the other centre-half, his centre-half partner has been, and be able to sweep up and clean up the danger. And having that sort of level of quality and knowledge and this sort of reading of the game is crucial, especially on nights like this. But I'm just so impressed with Malik Thiaw. The fact he's cost 30 million for me is the biggest bargain, I think, in the Premier League. It's proven to be one of the best centre-backs, definitely right now in form in the world. I really do think that. And this is where Newcastle United, they get it right. They get the recruitment right. They know who to target. They know who to pick. And it's just such a shame that often they identify a really good player, and I think just in last summer anyway, someone just swoop in. But even then, you're seeing it with Voltemade. He was, 4th, 5th, 6th choice or whatever it was in the end. He's come in and he looks really good. Even games where he's not scoring or contributing with goals, you can see he's still getting opportunities. The header in the first half, he should have scored that. Some lovely link-up play as well. There was a ball across where him and Elanga got in each other's way. So there's different ways in which Voltemade is contributing positively to Newcastle United without scoring, and that's absolutely pivotal. And somebody that is absolutely pivotal is those men in the middle. And it was a big night for Joel Linton, a big opportunity for him to really silence the critics. And it's that common theme of the players who always get criticised in a Premier League game. They just turn up in the Champions League game. Joel Linton is another one of them. He got a really nice goal. He looked a bit better today in terms of his ball retention, in terms of crashing the box. It was a performance from him which sort of gives you a lot of hope if you're a Newcastle United fan. And hope is what you certainly need when you're in so many competitions. You need to be able to see top performances. And Joe Linton, good performance from him. Lovely finish from him as well. Some nice play in the middle between Bruno, Tonali. I think it was Tonali heavily involved in that second goal. Again, absolute Rolls Royce. I don't even get tired about talking about Tonali, because some players are just so good that you can't help but talk about them. The way he oozes class and just roams around the pitch, whether it's in the defensive roles or even in the more attacking situations. He always wants to take authority. And you need players like that who want to take authority, want to take responsibility. And Tonali's right up there as a player who absolutely wants to do that. He got the man of the match by UEFA. And I don't think that's a horrible decision by any stretch of the imagination. And he's a player, when he's in form, Newcastle United just look really, really good. And to what it's 2-0, good result, good performance. And it's just all about the next one now. On to sort of playing that one against Brentford away from home. It's got to be a win. Show everyone that you can perform away from home and really kick on after the international break.